We're home, my friends. Hello, and just like that, April has come to a close. Welcome to my April recap, aka monthly videos I do where I recap all the movies and TV shows that I saw that month, and I review them in a rapid fire, I guess, fashion. We are back home. I am no longer quarantined at my grandmother's. I am now quarantined at my own apartment because I have to move out in like 2 months because I was finishing college and now we don't get to finish. Yay! We don't get a graduation. My internship is canceled. My life is falling apart. Yay! Okay, so without further ado, let's jump right into it. I finished The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel at the beginning of the month. Truly one of the greatest shows on TV right now. I wrote a review of it like a week ago if you want to go read that on my site, Alina's Media Analysis. It's always linked in the description of all my videos where I write reviews of things that are more concise than this. Okay, so I watched Tiger King, and I'm gonna be honest straight out the bat, I fucking hated it. I thought it was the stupidest thing. I genuinely thought it was such a waste of time and like wish I hadn't watched it. Like I only watched it because like everyone and their mom's dog's neighbor was like, you need to watch Tiger King, and then I was watching it and I'm like, this is dumb. And like, no, like keep watching it, it gets so crazy, it's so good. I literally hated it. Like I thought it was so bad. Just like the focus was all over the place. It's like they would bring up like a topic and then they would talk about it for like 2 seconds and then it would just never come up again. Nothing dramatic really happened. Like they kept talking about like, oh, murder. It's like it was just, oh my god, it was just so bad. I hate that everybody is just now like glorifying these terrible people. Like there are people out there who like actually are like supporting Joe Exotic, and that's really, really concerning. I don't know, it's really concerning. I didn't like it at all. 1 out of 10. Oh, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is a 10 out of 10, but like that, we knew that last month. I watched Scales, cinematic masterpiece. Go watch my video on that. There's nothing that can be said about Scales. It's just truly something you must witness with your own eyes. A 15 out of 10, ethereal plane. Nothing can top it. I rewatched Mindhunter with my grandma, which is one of my favorite Netflix shows. It's fantastic. It's about these 2 guys named Holden Ford and Bill Tench, who were based on real people with different names, who worked for the FBI in the 70s and basically jump-started the criminal profiling unit and invented the term serial killer because they started interviewing these famous killers and they to sort of do like a study on like what causes these killers to do these things, like whether, because you know there was this whole theory of like, oh, you're just born with it, and they were like, I don't think that's true. I think it can come from a lot of different things. It's just incredibly interesting. If you like true crime, you definitely have to watch it. I'm a big true crime fan. I'm really interested by all of that stuff. My backup career was a detective or a forensic scientist, so that didn't, but now I work in the entertainment industry, so. Jonathan Groff as Holden Ford, amazing. I love Jonathan Groff. If you're a Broadway fan, if you're a Glee fan, you know Jonathan Groff. This show is very outside of stuff that he normally does, and I think it really shows off his acting, because it's like a very serious role, and he's amazing. I think he did such a good job. All the actors on the show are amazing. All of the actors that they got for the serial killers are incredible. Like, there's the casting department needs a raise. Like, they all look just like them. Like, Ed Kemper, specifically Cameron Britton, who was also at Umbrella Academy, I'm pretty sure, won an Emmy for playing Ed Kemper. He's amazing. Like, it's just such a great show. Apparently, the rest, they want to do 5 seasons, but apparently, like, the production of season 3 is on, like, an indefinite hiatus, and, like, the director, like, let off all the actors off of their contracts because he started working on Love, Death, Robots, and so he hasn't been able to get anything together for season 3, and that makes me really upset because I really want season 3 because like it left off on like a big cliffhanger. Because like, okay, spoilers, Nancy left with Brian at the end of the season, and like I am so interested with the storyline with Brian because I totally think he's gonna end up being some sort of psychopath. Like he's just he's like showing these like sociopathic tendencies, and I think that like, oh my god, I'm just like, I think that's such an interesting like storyline to pick for like a person who like studies these psychopaths, for his son to now be showing those like behaviors at such a young age because he's adopted and they don't know what his previous family was like, and perhaps they were like super abusive and that's why he was like mute for like the first year. I think it's so fascinating. I really want to know what happens with that. Also, the real life Ford and Bill, they interviewed Ted Bundy, they interviewed John Wayne Gacy, like so many other people that we haven't seen yet, and I think that the interviews with the serial killers are the best parts of the show. Like, they're just so interesting. Just the way that Holden, just like, ooh, the way that Holden interviewed, he's such a smart guy, and like, ooh, risky business, but like, he's so smart, and he just really knows like how to get information out of them, and it's so interesting to watch. It's incredible. It's an amazing show. I talked about it for way too long. Okay, continue. Mindhunter is like a solid 9 out of 10. I did like the first season a lot more than the second season. I just think that the main case of the second season, which was the Atlanta child abductions, was like not as interesting as like seeing them try to jumpstart this study in the first season, if that makes any sense, but they're both great. It's a great show. Euphoria! Oh my god, I've been meaning to watch Euphoria for like literally since it came out last June. I watched the first episode because HBO put it on YouTube, and then I just never got around to it, mostly because I didn't have HBO. And then recently I got HBO because I did a little trade with my friend. I gave her my Disney Plus information, she gave me her HBO, and now I have all of the streaming services. I am all powerful. I can watch all of the things. So, I watched Euphoria, and honestly, I loved it. I really enjoyed it. It was like a very quick binge. Like, it was like 8 episodes, and it was one of those where it's like you get into it really off the bat, and then so it's easy to just kind of like watch the whole way through. Although, I have to say, this show was so ridiculously sexualized, it got to a point where I was like, this is a lot. Like, I'm just kind of tired of seeing, like, teen shows where, like, there's such an emphasis on this over-sexualization, and I think that it's, like, the way that sexuality was portrayed in this show specifically is the kind of thing I don't like to see. That's why I think I'm Not Okay With This was such, like, a breath of fresh air, because it conveyed sexuality and sexual relationships in such a genuine manner with kids that actually look 17, because they are, and, like, actually interact like 17-year-olds but can still have these relationships. I just thought that show was such a breath of fresh air, and I really want to see more things like that actually portray that stuff genuinely and not like Euphoria. There was just such an emphasis on sex in Euphoria, just on so many different angles, and like, yes, it was entertaining from like a television standpoint, but I don't think it's very healthy to like just constantly kind of push that narrative on teenagers, because, you know, these are very young characters. Especially, like, the whole storyline with Jules, Jules, oh my god, we're gonna talk about her. Like, how she was basically, like, prostituting herself, and I get that was, like, a big, like, part of the story, but it was just, like, it was kind of, like, I feel like that's the kind of situation that would traumatize a teenager. You know, like, what are, like, the effects of doing that? And I feel like they never kind of brought it up as, like, an actual issue, because I think that's, like, a really, like, I feel like they didn't really, like, bring that up as, like, an are you okay? Like, why are you doing this? And I don't think it's very healthy behavior, and I think that that's what it comes down to, that a lot of the sexualization was tied to basically unhealthy behavior of teenagers. So I really hope that, because they're doing a second season, I hope we kind of go into that more, and I get that it's like for the drama and for whatever, but I thought it was too much. Fight me if you want, it's okay. But as far as the good things, I loved this show. I thought Rue was an amazing character, Zendaya, I thought that she was just, like, so empathetic, and then I kind of liked how, like, they just jumped so full-heartedly into her friendship with Jules. Like, I like that there was really no, like, there was no, like, slow build-up to that. It was just, like, we're friends now, and I kind of liked that. I thought that was nice, because then it's, like, you got a lot of time to just sort of develop their relationship with each other, lesbian rights, like, wow, this was such a, oh my god, just, like, the representation in this show is amazing. Like, first of all, the fact that the secondary main character is a trans girl and is actually played by a trans actress is incredible. Like, so I thought that was awesome. I thought that, like, Kat being, like, this plus-size girl who was very, like, comfortable with that, I thought that was awesome as well, because that's something that's not really seen in teen shows either. It's always, like, very skinny girls, and I feel like girls like Kat aren't really shown in teen shows like this, of like being a plus size girl who was very confident with herself. And, you know, I just thought that was really good. I thought that was great. We always need more of that. I'm a big advocate for representation in TV in general. I'm sure, as most people are. But I thought this show did a good job with that. But yeah, overall, it was filmed beautifully. Like, this show just looks gorgeous. Like, the lighting and the way that the cinematography, all the makeup was incredible. We know the makeup was incredible. People have been doing Euphoria makeup tutorials for a fucking year now. The music was great. Zendaya's little song in the finale was incredible. Are you kidding me? Like, that last scene, oh my god, it was so good. I need to know what happens. I need a season 2. I cannot wait for a season 2. It was just a good time. It was an enjoyable binge. 8 out of 10. American Horror Story 1984. So if you watch my quarantine mess, you know that I hated this season of American Horror Story. I finally got around to watching it. I was watching it on air when it first came out in the fall, watched it for a couple episodes, just could not get into it. Then, FX just made a deal with Hulu. All of the FX shows are on Hulu now. Glorious. So, American Horror Story 1984 was on Hulu. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give it another try. Now that it's in a bingeable format, I feel like I'll be able to watch it all the way through. I did watch it all the way through. It's the worst season of American Horror Story. It's the worst season. It's so bad. Does anybody actually like 1984? Because it was so bad. Like, it was just the sloppiest, most repetitive, most cliche, like, there was just no stakes. You know how I feel about stakes in American Horror Story specifically. I don't like Coven because of the whole thing where they just kept dying and being brought back to life. I'm like, you can't put any emphasis on death in a show where there is a reversal element where you can reverse that death. That's just such amateur writing to try to put death as a stake when there's that. If there's a time travel element, like or a time reversal, like a lot of things therefore don't have any impact because you can just change them. So, I really don't like that. And this season had the same thing, where when they died, they were just at the camp. And so they would like be all dramatic about like, oh, you dead. Not as much as Coven, though. I feel like Coven did it more, where they were, like, trying to make these deaths all dramatic, but then it's like they would just come back to life, and then like, oh, you're back, okay, cool, let's move on. And whereas this one, I feel like it kind of dove into the camp, no pun intended, of, like, them just kind of killing for fun. And I just feel like there was no purpose. Like, there was just nothing going on. Like, I didn't care about any of the characters. I'm very angry that it wasn't called Camp. Like, they should have called it American Horror Story Camp, because it took place at a camp, and it was very campy, and that would have been funny. Also, calling it 1984 was so fucking stupid, because the majority of the show didn't even take place in 1984. It took place in the 90s. So, and they were just totally doing that to, like, jump onto the 80s nostalgia train, but they were a year too late. You know, like, they should have done that around, like, the Stranger Things era, because that was what revived the 80s nostalgia. Like, that was what caused all of this, and you could tell they were totally trying to jump on that with all the music and the clothes, but it didn't matter anymore, because they did it too late. It wasn't effective, and then most of the show didn't even take place, and then they were trying to do, like, the whole 80s serial killers thing, and they were like, oh, I write books about Ted Bundy, and, like, it was just, oh my god, it was just so obnoxiously trying to be, like, 80s, and it just wasn't good. It was so bad. Like, none of the characters were good. Like, nothing happened. Oh my god, the two fucking main serial killers were so fucking annoying. The Mr. Jingles guy and the Billy Idol dude. Oh my god, just like literally the worst. Like everything about the season was the worst. It was the worst. It was terrible. I blame it entirely on Sarah Paulson and Evan Peters not being there. I totally applaud them taking a break because I'm sure because they've said this show takes a major toll on your mental health, which I'm sure it does. I'm really glad they took a break, but the show suffered because of that. I'm sure of it. Roanoke was better than this. They were both in that. Roanoke before was the worst season of American Horror Story. I would rewatch Roanoke before I would rewatch I'm never gonna rewatch 1984. It was terrible. I literally hated it. It was, I don't even, like a 2 out of 10. So bad. But Lily Rabe was in it for like the last couple episodes, and I really liked that whole story with like Mr. Jingles is a kid and his brother, and Lily Rabe is their mom, and how Lily Rabe had like this very blatant favoritism towards the brother, and I really liked that, and that was just a far more interesting story than literally anything that happened through the entire show. and like when his brother died, she just like resented him his whole life for it. And then she turned into a fucking murderer, and then that was dumb. But like for a bit, it was good. Yo, but can we talk about next season? Looks incredible. Like how Ryan Murphy released that. I think they're finally doing the At Sea one, and I literally can't wait because there's been rumors about them doing a season at sea for like years, about like of them being like stuck on a ship in the middle of the ocean. I'm like, there's nothing scarier than that. Like if you're stuck on a cruise ship and there's a murderer, like where are you gonna go? You can't go anywhere. Like that's so good. And like everybody's coming back, like Sarah Paulson, Evan Peters, Kathy Bates, Finn Wittrock, Lily Rabe, like literally everyone. Like they're all gonna be in it. It's gonna be great. I'm literally so excited. I really hope that redeems it, because it's not like I'm not a fan of the new age of American Horror Story either. Like, Cult is probably my favorite season. It's either my 1 or 2. Freak Show and Cult go back and forth. And Apocalypse was great. So it's not like I have an issue with, like, the new American Horror Story, like, post-Jessica Lange. It's just that 84 was terrible. It was just bad. It was just so bad. Why? Ryan Murphy is just so incredibly inconsistent when it comes to quality, which I should address all three. Ian Brennan, Brad Fulchuk, Ryan Murphy are the three, and they do all of these shows, you know? They're the ones who work on all of these Ryan Murphy shows. They call them the Ryan Murphy shows, even though it's Ryan Murphy and one or both of the others. And, like, their quality is just always all over the place, where they'll do something amazing, like the assassination of Gianni Versace, and then that wins like 10 Emmys. And then they'll go and do American Horror Story 1984. And then they'll do The Politician, which was incredible. And then they'll go do something, you know, like it's just so strange to me, and I'll never understand why. I suppose it is because of the quantity of production. Like they're coming out with like 4 shows a year, you know, like 4 seasons of something a year. 3 or 4. And I guess it's just because they're partly overworking themselves, and so the quality can't be super consistent. I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm a big Ryan Murphy fan, but he does have some misses, and this was definitely one of them. The Act. I also watched The Act again. This was in my top 10 of 2019. I watched this again with my grandma because she hadn't seen it. Once again, true crime. We were on a little true crime pattern. This is a fantastic show. It's about the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case, which is the most famous Munchausen by proxy case documented. It's pretty recent. It's from like 2015, and it's basically this girl named Gypsy Rose, and her mother had Munchausen by proxy, which means that you pretend. Basically, it's like making somebody sick for attention. Munchausen is when you do it to yourself, like you make yourself sick for attention, for some sort of ulterior motive. But so basically she was making her daughter sick, and she was convincing her and doctors and the world that she had cancer, and that she had to be in a wheelchair, and that she was allergic to sugar, and all of these different things that weren't true. And then also she was lying about her age. She was saying that she was like 15 when she was actually like 22. It's crazy. It's the kind of thing that's like, it's like reality is truly stranger than fiction. And it's an incredible show. Patricia Arquette and Joey King, both incredible. Joey King is like, oh my god, I was so upset when she didn't win the Emmy, but she was up against a bunch of very talented people, so it's okay. But like, wow, talk about a transformative role. Basically what ended up happening, spoilers I guess, but this is history. She had this boyfriend, and she and the boyfriend ended up murdering her mother. Well, the boyfriend murdered her mother, but she was involved, and she went to jail. She is still in jail now, but apparently she's doing very well, because she's finally free from her mother. So it's an amazing show. It's like 10 episodes. It's pretty short. It's on Hulu. It's a Hulu original. And apparently this show is going to be like an anthology type show, where each show they deal with a different like true crime case, which is like literally my cup of tea. Like, thank you, Hulu. So yeah, it's amazing. Just like some of the cinematography, some of the scenes. Oh my god, there are just like some like scenes. It's like scenes where there are like no lines, that are just like, oh my god, like, spoilers, so if you've seen the show, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you haven't, spoilers, I guess. Like, the scene right after, her mother gets her from, like, the Wolverine guy's house, and she, like, has her, like, go into the wheelchair, and then she makes her roll herself up the ramp, and then it's, so she's, like, and it's, like, the camera's, like, faced on Gypsy, and, but, like, her mother's behind her, and she's, like, rolling up the ramp, and she gets tired, and she, like, lets go, and the wheelchair rolls back, and the mother catches it, and like rolls her up the ramp. Like the symbolism of that, of like her mother trying to show that it's like, you can't do this without me. Like you, like she's like you are not, like it's just like her showing like you're nothing without me. Like you need me. And like it's just like there were so many scenes like that. Like also of course the scene at the end where she's in the bathroom and Nick is next door murdering her mother. Like the sound design of that scene where she's just there with her hands over her ears and the camera's like spinning and we've got the, oh my god, it's just like the silent scenes in this show like are just so incredibly done. It's like truly fantastic filmmaking. So go watch The Act. The Act is like a 9 out of 10. The Act is so good. Ozark. I watched Ozark. It's a pretty popular show on Netflix. My parents told me to watch it, so me and my grandma watched it. I'm not a huge fan of the show. I've now seen all 3 seasons. Season 3 just came out like a week or so ago. Like, I don't know how I feel. Like, I have such mixed feelings about this show. At the end of the day, I don't think it's really my thing. Like, I don't think this show is really for me. And it's not, like, the kind of thing that I usually enjoy. Therefore, I didn't really enjoy it. Just, like, so many of the characters are just, like, terrible. You know? And so basically, Ozark is basically about this guy named Marty, who launders money for a drug cartel. And basically he and his family, which consists of his wife Wendy and his kids Charlotte and Jonah, they moved to the Ozarks in Missouri to like do this money laundering thing discreetly, and like it turns into this whole thing. I just, like, hate all of the characters. It's just, like, one of those where it's, like, if I don't care about the characters, so I can't care about anything that's happening to them. Marty did grow on me, but it wasn't until Season 3 that he did. Season 3 was my favorite season, actually, the most recent season. I think that I enjoyed that one the most, especially because of the integration of Ben, which was Wendy's brother. I thought that made it a bit more interesting. Wendy is literally the worst fucking person in the entire world. I don't think there are very few characters that I hate more than Wendy Bird. If the coronavirus was a person, it would be Wendy Bird. Like, she's dreadful. Just everything she does, I just want to jump off a cliff. Like, she's just so awful. And like, if the writers are trying to get you to root for her, they're doing a terrible job, because I despise her. Ruth, on the other hand, is incredible. Ruth Langmore is such a fantastic character, and if the entire show was about her, or even just all about the Langmores, it would be 10 times more interesting. Like, the contrast of, like, them and, like, the birds, which the birds are just so incredibly privileged, and they just keep digging themselves into holes because they're stupid, and then being like, oh, woe is me, like, I hate it. Whereas, like, the Langmores come from an actual place of, like, tragedy and like struggle, and they're here like actually having to work for things. And like so even if it was like all about the Langmores, like Ruth and Wyatt and 3 and Russ and, you know, all of them, when that was all a thing, like I was so interested in, like, Ruth trying to get Wyatt into college. Like, I'm just, like, it was, like, oh my god, like, that was just so good. And it's, like, that, and then it was just, like, broken up by, like, Marty and Wendy doing stupid shit and endangering their children. Like, they're just such awful parents. They're such terrible parents. But yeah, Ruth was amazing. I really liked the 3rd season. And I liked, like, her and Ben. Like, that was really nice. Like, Ruth finally got this, like, person, and everything got all fucked up. Also, oh my god, who the fuck wrote the Wyatt and Darlene thing? Like, what drugs were they on? Because, like, who thought that was a good idea? Like, what the fuck was that? Like, I've just been waiting for, like, Wyatt and Charlotte to be a thing, and they're like, psych? Oh, man, it's just a hot mess. It's just it's a bit of a weird show. Like, I understand, like, it's well done, like, I understand why it's, like, such, like, a, you know, it's won awards and things, but yeah, at the end of the day, it just wasn't really my thing. I'd give it, like, a 6. I'd give it, like a 9 for Ruth. Like, Ruth is, like, a 9, but the show is, like, a 6. I rewatched Bird Box. Wow, throwback. My grandma had never seen it, so we watched it. Bird Box is good. Like, I'll fight. I love A Quiet Place, but, like, Bird Box just, like, does it differently, you know? Like, I really like how Bird Box has the whole, like, when the thing started, you know? Whereas, like, A Quiet Place, which is, like, after the fact, and I understand that it looks like from the trailer of Quiet Place 2, but they're gonna have, like, the day it all started, and I like seeing that stuff. And so I liked how Bird Box did that. Bird Box, I have seen it a couple times now, though, and it does get a bit stale, and, like, you know, it's a whole meme. Like, Bird Box is just a giant meme, but, like, it's a good movie. Like, it's good. Like, Bird Box, the first time I saw Bird Box, I was, like, scared out of my fucking mind. I was, like, I was shook. I was so fucking shook. Rip A Quiet Place, too, by the way. They had to cancel their premiere dates, whatever, because of Corona. Sorry, John Krasinski. I can't wait to see your movie when it actually comes out. Yeah, Bird Box is like a 6 or a 7. Like, it's a good time. Legion. I watched the first episode of Legion, so I can't really talk about it. I'll talk about it more next month when I've actually watched it. My dad has been trying to get me to watch this fucking show for, like, months. And I finally started it. It's a Marvel show, I think. I think it's based off of a Marvel comic. It was on FX. Now it's on Hulu. It's just about this guy, and he's in a mental asylum, and he has these weird superpowers, and it's just one of those shows where, like, visually, it's just stunning. And my dad says that it's, like, the most visually appealing show he's ever seen. He's been hyping the shit up for months. I really need to watch it. Cassandra from The Society is in it, and the chick from Parks and Rec, and it looks like it's gonna be a good time. I just need to, like, sit down and actually watch it. So I'm not gonna rate it yet. I don't know. I don't know. Something I want to start doing in these videos is also reviewing books, because I actually am, like, really trying to start reading books again. I used to read a lot, and then in the past couple years, it's just been really hard for me to, like, concentrate on a book. But I've read a couple here and there, and I read this over quarantine in a couple days, and it's Aristotle and Dante Discovered the Secrets of the Universe. And oh my god, this was just such a beautiful book. It's a queer love story between two boys named Aristotle, or Ari, and Dante. They're both Mexican. They live in this small Mexican town, and it's just one of those, like, coming-of-age stories. Like, they're both 15. It's summer. Like, it's just so beautiful. It reminds me of, like, it feels like a teen Call Me By Your Name. Like, the way that it's written, like, it's very, like, Call Me By Your Name vibes, and just, like, it's very, like, poetic. Like, the author is actually a poet, so it comes off as very poetic. But it's also very simple, because it's told from the perspective of Ari, who is 15. It very much reads like a 15-year-old. So if you want, like, a really easy read, like, something that doesn't take a lot out of you, but is just, like, really rewarding, like, this is an amazing book. The ending is beautiful. I need a movie of this shit. Hi, can I have a movie of this with Jack Dylan Grazer as Dante and Luca Guadagnino directing? Thank you, that's all I want. Aristotle and Dante, 10 out of 10. 9 out of 10? 9 out of 10. I also started reading The Secret History by Donna Tartt. You know how we feel about Donna Tartt in this house. I'm really not that far into it at all, so I'm not gonna really give it much of a rate. I'm not really gonna give it a rating or talk about it too much, but basically, the gist of it's about this guy, and he's basically telling the story of how in college, he and this society of people who studied Greek murdered a guy. And that's just my cup of tea. I don't know about you. This was Donna's first book. This was pre-Goldfinch. I got this really nice copy off of Thrift Books. It has, like, a clear dust jacket, and it's, like, really beautiful. Like, but yeah, she's thick, and Donna's writing is, like, a more difficult read than Aristotle and Dante. You know, like, this is a more of, like, you have to have full concentration, like, read sentences a couple times kind of thing, because Donna knows her shit, not that Aristotle and Dante, you know what I'm saying. So yeah, this has been I need to actually sit down and, like, devote myself to this. I read The Goldfinch in 3 days. I don't feel like this is gonna be one of those 3-day reads, but maybe it is. Secret History. Yay. I started watching Sex Education 2 again, because I have no self-control, and this is what I do instead of watching shows that I haven't seen. I just rewatch shit I've already seen. I reviewed Sex Ed Season 2 in my February recap? January? One of those. I'll put it here. It's one of the best, if not the best, Netflix show. It's definitely the best teen show on TV right now. It's just amazing, everything. It's just great. Go here, we talk about it in the other thing. And lastly, last night, I watched a movie! Oh my god, I actually sat down and watched a movie. I watched The Invisible Man, which came out a couple months ago, and I finally got to see it. So, this was a new Blumhouse movie starring Elizabeth Moss, a take on The Invisible Man. It's basically about this woman who was in this really abusive relationship and escapes this abusive relationship, but her boyfriend was, like, this crazy inventor guy. Like, he worked for this tech company, and she's convinced that he has figured out a way to be invisible and stalk her. And it's great. It was so good. It was one of, like, the best Blumhouse movies I've seen in a while, because Blumhouse is very hit and miss as well, where, like, they'll have, like, a really good movie, and then they'll have, like, a really mediocre movie. And this was one of the good ones. I felt like the tension was really good. Like, it was very, like, it didn't rely on jump scares at all. It was a lot on ambiance and atmosphere, which is my favorite kind of horror. Elizabeth Moss was great. There were some really crazy, like, twists in here, like, things that happened that I definitely was not expecting. I thought this movie was going to be one of those where the trailer gave the whole thing away, because the trailer seemed like it had a lot of stuff going on, but it really didn't. It really didn't give away all the important stuff, and I really, really like that. I hate when trailers, like, have all the good stuff in the trailer, or, like, have all the interesting things, or kind of, like, tell you the whole story. That's a bad trailer. But so I thought this was going to be one of those by the looks of the trailer, and it was not. They sort of did a curveball on you, and there were some crazy things that happened in this movie that you would not expect. So it was really good. I would recommend watching it. So yeah, Invisible Man, like a 7 out of 10. You did it, Blumhouse. Good job. And that wraps up my April recap. What did you watch this month? I'm sure you watched a lot, because we're in quarantine. Give me some more recommendations, although they're probably on my list already. It's just a never-ending thing of things I need to watch. Comment, like, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. Press the notification bell, because I don't have an uploading schedule. Lots of things to make and upload all the time. Links in the description for the merch and website and all that kind of stuff. This has been a really great dinner. Thanks for coming over.